Hey everyone, it's Professor Nagel. It's been a while. We're going to do T5 from Carey's 8th edition of New Perspectives on HTML5 CSS. This is the review assignment for Trusted Friends tips. Alright, so this isn't the whole build the navigation and everything as we did during the tutorial. As we learned this content, this is the review assignment, the tips page alone. And in this page, or this assignment, we're going to be working a lot with flexboxes, and then we're going to work on some print CSS. So I've already downloaded the starter files. I have the tips page opened in Cursor. I'm using Cursor. It's kind of like VS Code as my editor. So most, if not all of the shortcuts that I use are going to be the same today. And I have the assignment open in my other screen so I can read through it with you. So let's get to it. So we're opening up TF tips, styles 4, and print 2. So I have tips open here. Here's styles 4, and I've already taken these files and removed the txt underscore from them. If you're in my class, I do that for you. Everyone else, you're going to have to rename those files. But in here, we're putting our name and the date. All right, and when I save, you'll notice that my editor does some auto formatting here. That's okay. That was step 1. Open those things, put your names in there, and then go to tips.html, and we need to add a viewport meta tag. And as I've said in my class, the viewport meta tag is one that I don't know. I don't type it. I don't need to know it, right? And I don't need to know it because you just copy it from somewhere else that you've already used it. So I could copy it from the TF tutorial, but because you're not in my class, this is how I would do it. I would go over to Google and I would search for HTML viewport meta tag. Look for W3 schools. That's the one you want. And if you look just right here, there's the viewport meta tag. Copy that. Paste it in there. That was number 2. Step 2. Step 3. Add links to the following CSS or style sheets. So link, let me make this a little bigger for you. And we're adding the media attribute to this. So I just made this like template for me. Link rel equals style sheet, href is blank, media equals blank. And then I'm going to hold down Alt Shift and hit the down arrow twice to copy that down. And now I can link to TF base, and base is for all devices. And then I'm going to link to TF styles 4, which is only if you're looking at this on a screen. And then you probably guessed TF print is if we print the page. So let me just help you out here. This was step 2. This was step 3. And this was specifically ABC of step 3. And then step 4 is take the time to look at this page. All right, so we have a body, and the body has a header. Then there's a section, a left section, a right section, and a footer. Okay, the right section has some other sections in there. Okay, so we're getting to know how this works. Let's look at this page. So my students are used to, we just use Live Server to look at this. So right click and open with Live Server. There it goes. All right, and here's the page so far. You could ignore that. That's my VPN. I wonder if I can turn that off for this session. Well, we're just going to leave it there. Ignore that. You don't have that little red thing in the top. I do. Now, go to Styles 4. We are in Styles 4, the General Flex Styles section. So this section is for anything. This is for all browsers, right? We're not into the mobile and desktop versions yet. This is for everyone. And I'm in step 7 is to create a style rule for the body element. So select the body that displays the page body as a flex box in the row direction, wrapping content onto a new line. So we're going to start with display is flex. And how this is going to go is we're displaying it in a row, and we're going to wrap the content. Meaning if there's not enough room on this row for the next element, put it below it. That was step 7. Step 8, the page contents divided into 2 sections with IDs of left and right. Yeah, we saw that when we reviewed everything. The left section does not need as much room as the right, so create a style for the left section. Remember, it has an ID of left, correct? ID left. Don't spell left wrong. Make sure to get the capitalization correct there. And we're going to set the flex growth and shrink to 1 and 8 and the basis to 130. So we can do that. We can do like flex basis 130 pixels. Flex, we'll do grow first. Grow is 1. Flex shrink is 8. All right, so we did that for left. When we do right, we're going to do the shorthand. That was step 8. And step 9, right needs some more room. Right's basis is going to be 351. Grow and shrink are also 8 and 1. So it's flipped from the left. And we can write this actually in one statement. So we can say flex, and this is grow, shrink, basis. All right, let's work on step 10, which is to set the display of the section element with a class of tips. The display is going to be flex, and the flex flow of that is going to be in a row with contents wrapped. You can peek, see what we're working with now. And step 11, for the articles, we're going to set this up so that articles flex with a growth of 2, shrink of 1, and the basis of 351 pixels. All right, that didn't really change much. But step 12, this is where we're going to see a change. The asides, the biographical asides, that is going to flex with a growth of 1, shrink of 2, and a basis of 250. Okay, so now the aside is next to the bio here. All right, and we can look at this stuff and see. Let's inspect this and see what it's doing. Here's an article. And notice that this article, it started at 351 pixels. That's the shaded area. All right, I'm gonna use my cursor over here. So the shaded area is ending about here where my cursor is, and then you see an arrow that's going to draw to this darker mustard color. All right, so you can see the shaded area is where the basis of that article was, but it flexed open because there was more room. Okay, you can see that it's now 475 pixels wide. As my page gets smaller, now it flexed from 351 to 381. All right, so that content is going to grow and shrink as necessary. Same thing with left. Left started at 130 pixels, and it flexed horizontally to 190.33 pixels. So it's kind of like setting percentages on these things, but instead with percentages, you can't make them grow and shrink at different rates. And when we're dealing with flexboxes, we can do that. All right, and now we're going to work with our navigation here. Step 13. The horizontal navigation list at the top of the page will be treated as a flexbox. Create a rule for the nav.horizontal UL selector. Okay, so find in the HTML, there's the header, nav class horizontal. Double click on horizontal, copy it, because when we come back to step 13, now we can do nav.horizontal, and we don't spell horizontal wrong. And the UL, which is within nav horizontal, display it as a flexbox. So display flex, and the flex flow of it is going to be column wrap. Go to the mobile device section. Here we are. So we're going to create a media query for screens with a maximum width of 480 pixels. So and as soon as I hit these are my suggestions, and media screen is the first one. So yeah, I want that media screen, and the max width is 480 pixels. Meaning you're looking at it on a screen, but the screen is no wider than 480 pixels, which is your mobile device. So when you're looking at it on a mobile device, this archive should be displayed in several columns at the bottom of the page. So for the nav.vertical UL selector, which we can't spell vertical, right? Not just you, me too. Can't spell vertical. So I'm going to copy that. Now, while I'm in here, nav.vertical UL, and notice I've got curly brackets within curly brackets, and cursor or VS Code will color code these as you get deeper and deeper. So my first level curly brackets are yellow, and my second level are purple. Plus, when you tap on one of them, it highlights the other one for you. Okay, so for this thing, this is also going to be displayed as a flexbox. Column orientation and wrapping. So flex flow, column, wrap. And we need the height of this to be 240 pixels. Okay, so how do we see this, right? Hit F12 and ignore these errors. They're coming from somewhere else, I think. Right here, this thing that kind of looks like you're playing Hangman, it's actually a phone in front of a laptop screen. If you click on that, this is your device toolbar now. And you can say, I'm using Pixel 7 because that's what I have. What does this look like on a Pixel 7? Oh, look how it looks different now. Okay? And to show you what I mean, how it looks different now, I'm going to comment out that stuff that we just did. This is how it was. But now we're saying, on a mobile device, display this as a flex, column wrap, 240 pixels tall. This thing here, we're going to left, this thing here is 240 pixels tall. You can see that. It's 392 by 240. So this bit was 15A. 15B is give the section with an element ID left, section pound left, a flex order of 99 to put it near the bottom of the page. So, and right now it is at the bottom of the page, okay, because as your elements come into the DOM, they get numbered like this. This assumes that it's 1. This would have assumed it's 2. Right, this section. The next section's 3. The footer is 4. Well, we took left instead of 3, made it 99. But the footer is still 4, or whatever that would have been, right? So we need to take the footer, 15C, the body footer, in case sections have a footer, we'll do body footer here, and set the order of that to 100, which is higher than left, so it actually puts now the footer at the bottom. All right, so remember, when you're talking about mobile web design, single column. And yeah, this stuff here, not single column, maybe that's okay. If these things are so short, to make it a single column would have been really long, and there would have been a lot of empty space here. So single column's a good rule of thumb, but it's not 100% the rule. All right, in step 16, the navigation list should only be displayed if someone clicks on, I believe, a hamburger menu, so we're going to end up using. We're going to find this nav icon, which has an ID of nav icon. A pound nav icon, we're going to display that as a block. And the nav horizontal UL, which we did right here, step 13, that same selector, we are not going to show this. So there's our nav icon that we are now showing, but we hid the navigation. Okay, now here's where it gets a little complicated on 16C. If you hover or touch the nav icon, we want to take the following UL, right? Because this is the nav icon. And what's the UL that comes after it? It's this one right here, which is our navigation. And we want to see that. Okay, so it's just going to get a little bit complicated. So A pound nav icon. When you hover over it, find the next UL and display it as a block. The hover pseudo selector also works when you tap on something. All right, so when I tap on that, it's displayed. if hovering were working, we'd also have to look for when your cursor is hovering over the UL, right? Because not just when you're hovering over the navigation item, but then the navigation appears and your cursor, your hover would move off of that and then this whole navigation would go away. So we're looking for it when you tap on this or when you are hovering over this. And my formatting is putting this on 2 different lines, right? You can have it on 1 line, 2 lines, it doesn't matter. This is the selector. Okay, now we're down towards the end of the page here in the desktop section. And we're looking for media query for screens. And again, all I did there was typed @ and the first thing was @ media screen and curly brackets. That's what I want. I hit enter. Screen and the minimum width is 481 pixels. Think about that. Minimum width is 481 pixels, so that means 481 pixels or more. Okay, and the start of this is step 17. And this is 17 continued. The contents of the horizontal navigation at the top of the page. And look, like, we're getting out of this mobile device. So I'm going to click on the device toolbar. Yeah, looks kind of silly in desktop, right, to have the navigation like this and we have all this empty space. So let's change that. The height of the UL element within the horizontal list navigation. Nav.horizontal UL, that's going to have a height of 160 pixels. Boom. So it's displayed as remember, this is a flexbox, and we ran out of room, so we put it on the next one and the next one, etc., etc. Kind of see it there as I hover over it. You can see this UL is a flexbox, and there's my items. Oh, and that was it for the screen stuff. All right, so your desktop should look like this, and your mobile should look like this. And when you click on the hamburger menu, and we call it a hamburger menu because it looks like a beef patty within 2 buns, we have our navigation. All right, so you have just built a responsive website. Now what we're going to do is, I can close this. We're going to hit in the browser, hit Control P to look at it and print preview. We're going to clean that up. Right now, this is the only way that I know of to see what the print design looks like is you open up your browser and you hit print, but you don't actually print it. All right, so we're going to hit cancel. We don't actually want to print it. And for this to work, we're going to be working in TF print. And, when I print this thing, I really don't need the navigation to the other pages or even to these archives, right? There's certain things we just don't need when you print a web page, including navigation. So let's start. This is going to be step 19. We're going to hide all navigation lists, the H1 heading in the body header. So body header H1. I wonder what that is. Body header at the nav that we had. Oh, parenting tips. Guess we're getting rid of that. We're going to hide the left section, which again was the archives, and the footer, specifically the body footer. And I have body footer because, once again, this article could have a footer. Notice this article has a header. It could have a footer. Do we have any? We don't. But this could have a footer here with some information like author bio, right? Whoever wrote this article could be in there. So that's why I am very specifically choosing body footer. And we need to hide these things. So display none. And my editor rewrote that on multiple lines. It doesn't matter. That's the selector. However you want to do it. I prefer 1 line. I just haven't updated my preferences on this this editor. So let's go back. Look. If you need to, refresh. Otherwise, print. And there, we've gotten rid of a bunch, right? That's the left-hand side's gone, the navigation's gone, the footer's gone. We're making it a little bit better. All right, going on to step 20 in the page box styles. We're going to set the page size to 8.5 by 11 inches with a margin of a 1/2 inch. So the size is 8.5 inches by 11 inches, and the margin is 0.5 inches. So we're just saying how big the page is. And then in the header section, display a style rule that displays the logo image as a block with a width of 100. They didn't give us much on that one. Normally they give us the whole selector. Ooh, this logo has an ID, or this has an ID of logo. All right, so let's just use that. Logo, we're going to display it as a, not at logo, pound logo, displayed as a block with a width of 100%. So let's go back, print one more time. Okay, that is block 100%. You know, I didn't really talk about this too much, but every time you come back here and you print, it's throwing away the screen CSS or the style CSS, right? Because that's only loaded for the screen. It still loads base, but then it loads the print CSS. Because when you hit print, media is print. So that matches media all. It doesn't match media screen, but it does match media print. Okay, so that logo stuff, that was step 21. Step 22 has like 6 sections to it. So 22A is for headers within the article element. So article header, set the bottom margin to 0.2 inches. B says for H1 headings within the article, so article H1, and let's look at this. See, I keep going back to the HTML because I need to look at things. Article, I think they're talking about this H1, but that's not article arrow H1. That's just article H1, right? It's a descendant, not a child. So let's make that article H1. We're going to set the font size to 24, not pixels, but point. So when we're printing things, we deal with points and inches. On screen, it's pixels. And the line height of this is going to be 26 point. And let's just peek. Oh, gotta hit cancel. Cancel the print, refresh the print. Okay, we're getting there. C, for the aside, we're going to set the background color to RGB value of 211, 211, 211. We know that when the 3 numbers are the same, it's a gray, and 211 between 0 and 256 is really high, right? It's really close to that, so it's a whitish gray. If it were 255, 255, 255, that's white. 000 is black. Step D, for H1 headings in aside elements. So aside H1, set the font size to 18 point and the line height to 20 point. All right, and we can peek again, hit print. Oh, I'm like, why don't I see the background color? Because I don't have background graphics turned on. There we go. Now we can see the background color turn to that gray color. And then, okay, E says for images with within the aside element. So aside IMG, right? And this is one where, as you're following the book instructions, it says for images within aside, and a lot of students will do like that, or images, right? Image isn't the tag, it's an IMG tag. And we're going to set the width of these images to 0.8 inches. And then step F, for paragraphs, we're going to set the font size to 12 point, and we're going to set the top and bottom margin of 0.1. So margin top 0.1 inches and margin bottom. Print one more time. Okay, That's what it's looking like right now, your print preview. Almost done. Step 23 is all about hypertext links because, look, if I go here and this talks about the Midwest Educators Conference, and when I hit print, I can see that Midwest Educators Conference looks like a hyperlink, but you can't click on hyperlinks on a piece of paper, right? It's not like you take your finger and you hit a piece of paper and another piece of paper flies into your hand, okay? That's not how they work. So we're going to start with hyperlinks, and we're going to say, make them black instead of that black, not block, instead of the blue. And we're going to set the text decoration to none. So now they're no longer underlined. And we want the text of the URL. So let's look at one of these. The text of the URL, this link right here, is going to be after the A tag in parentheses. So how do we do that? Well, after the A tag, we're going to add the following content. We're going to add a space and then an open curly bracket. And then you're going to get the href attribute from the A tag that you're selecting. And then close parenthesis space. All right, so just note the formatting on this. There's a space here after the parenthesis, and there's a space before the parenthesis. That way, when I print this thing, you can see there's the link, okay? And it looks normal. It looks like it just kind of flows right through there. And then just so we can see these a little bit better, let's set the font weight to bold. Take a look at it one more time. All right, so we have some bold links. There's a bold link. There's a bold link. The problem with hyperlinks, though, is they're long text, and we could have fit some of that text right here, right? There's a lot of empty space here. So we are going to try to break up this content on Word. Let's keep going. We're almost done. Step 24, page breaks. So the idea here is learning through play. You have this raising a reader, which ends here, and the bio for the author is on the next page of your paper. So we don't want that. We want to encourage content to stay together or possibly break specifically always after something. Step A is going to be every time there's an aside, we're always going to break. So page break after is going to be always. So now when we look at this, after Sandra Turner Davis's aside, there's a page break. So every time, and basically every time one of these articles finishes, there's a page break. Also, you never want a page break within an OL, UL, or IMG. So page break inside is going to be avoid. We say avoid, because if an image actually has to go into 2 pages, it will. But if you start a list and you can't finish that list on the page that you're on, put the list on the next page. Same with an image, right? I think that kind of makes sense. And then C is set widows and orphans within paragraphs to 3 lines each. So your widows is 3 and your orphans are 3. And that's saying how many lines of a paragraph are allowed to be by themselves, basically, whether it's the beginning or the end of a paragraph. Okay, look one more time. We don't really get to see widows and orphans here because our articles both land on one page, but you can see what your print preview looks like. Step 25 is save your work, which we've been doing the entire time. And step 26 is to look at your work, which we've been doing the entire time. So there you go. There's the Trusted Friends Daycare tips page using flexboxes and some print work on it.